Well, hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for Safe Money Radio. And as you know, if you're listening for many, many years, we've been on Safe Money Radio for 14 years now, but we also entered the world of podcasting and YouTube videos and all that back in 2022. So you might be listening on the radio right now, but you may have downloaded a podcast or you might be watching online. And we have a wonderful guest with us today. So if you are watching, we're going to have a lot of fun today. So Dr. Alex Murguia. He has one of these lovely names like mine that gets butchered all the time. But Alex, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. And no, you did great. You were like a very delicate chef.
Only because I listen to your podcast with Dr. Wade Fowle all the time, so I know how to say it. So,
and just to be kind, real quick, just you can refer to us as Wade and Alex. It makes us uncomfortable when anyone says. Yep. Doctor or anything like that. Only our parents, and that's it.
Very good, very good. So, well, hey, with that being said, as we get started today, you know, I live in the world of, I think everyone knows who Ed Slott is, and I think everyone knows who Tom Hegna is, and everyone knows who Wade Fowle is, but that's my world because I'm in it every day. And so there are a lot of people listening. They have no clue who Brad Pistol is. They have no clue who Alex is.
Sure.
So, Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and what is it that you do?
All right. In the beginning, right? Look, you know, if you're picturing something in your head, I'm born in Miami from Cuban parents. The only reason I say that is because I think our style is a little more direct and sure. To the point with a little touch of humor to kind of soften the blow, if you will, sometimes. So I want to say that because, you know, I am who I am. And so as we get through this, you'll kind of pick up on that. But that's my sort of point of view on things. But I studied in the Northeast and the like. My graduate degree is in clinical psychology. But along the way towards writing my dissertation, I was funded by NIH, and so we received a fellowship. And any grad student with money thinks that, oh, my goodness, I'm rich. And so the idea was, okay, what do I do with this? And that got me into this sort of investing rabbit hole, if you will, research interest. And so by the time I graduated, I know I wanted to be into investments. And I joined my wife's uncle who had a financial planning firm, and thinking I would go to New York and, hit it big kind of thing in DC at this point. And then I realized that, this is kind of a cool little business. And we just grew it and grew it and grew it to where we are now. That's McLean Financial Planning.
Very good.
In that mindset, though, I think I'm a tinkerer at heart. In which, once you set up your financial planning firm, you kind of see certain things. And Wade and I got together initially. This is like, I don't know, more than 10 years ago, less than 15 years ago, in that range. And I guess I'm getting old if I'm kind of talking in those terms. Yeah. Right. But we started a financial planning company called InStream Solutions. And that's something that was our first foray into, dealing with pixels, if you will. And we did really well with that. It started going off really well. And at a certain point, Wade and I had to make a decision: are we software, entrepreneurs or not? Yeah. And we decided, you know what? Let's stick to the finance. Let's stick to what we know, if you will. Yeah. And so InStream's still there. It's actually a white label financial planning solutions for many large institutions. But we stepped away. And we actually started working on Wade's blog. We folded that into an RIA. It's a non-asset-based RIA, and turned it into like an educational membership site for consumers where they can learn about all things retirement income planning.
Right.
And so we sort of tinkered with that. And so we have McLean Asset Management, the traditional wealth management firm. And we have, if you will, Retirement Researcher, which is sort of a educationally driven, like masterclass, but for all things retirement income. And that's doing really well. It's one of these ideas that we just started playing with and taking. And from there, we actually realized that's what led to the creation of the RISA, actually, of what we've observed within Retirement Researcher. But that's where it's at, where the partnership between Wade and I has been, where he does a lot of the research and things along those lines. And then we try to put it into practical application.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for that background. So for those listening, they've heard me talk about Wade Fowle on the show. And, of course, I always have his books with me. I have Safety First Retirement Planning, an integrated approach for a worry-free retirement, which is what a lot of our listeners on Safe Money Radio are interested in. He also wrote a retirement planning guidebook, Navigating the Important Decisions for Retirement Success. And we're going to talk about those books later in the show, I think. But if you're listening right now, and I really think today is a day you want to stay with us. It's not our typical show, but it's going to have some blessings in this for you, because we have an expert in retirement research and in retirement income planning on the show with us, who's worked very closely with Wade Fowle. So if you're listening, our phone number is 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. You can always call into the show anytime. You can request a free copy of my book, Bulletproof the Safe and Secure Retirement Income Plan, where we talk about how to keep your money safe and how to develop buckets of money that will last the rest of your life, taking out the risk and the fee and some of the guesswork sometimes that's involved in more of a stock market portfolio. This is more of insurance planning and the guarantee side. We do both sides here at Trinity. And with Safe Money Radio, my son obviously works on the side of risk management and is our IAR, and I work on the safety side. And together we've worked through programs like the Retirement Income Certified Professional with Dr. Wade Fowle, and we have our guests on the show that are going to talk more about how all this works. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness. So stay with us. After the break, we're going to jump right into that. Our number again is 866-780-7233. And there's always someone standing by to take your call. So, Alex, I know before the break we were talking just a little bit about your background and how it is that you came to be in this business, which is, it's an interesting story. All of our stories are pretty interesting, but you work very closely with Wade Fowle, or as people like you, I know you said just call him Wade, and we do, but Dr. Wade Fowle, and worked for many, many years with the American College of Financial Services, and now he's kind of parted ways a little bit. I know he's still a professor of practice, but he has helped create something with you. You guys have worked on this for many years, something called the RISA. And we have been using this now for about 3 months, and we love it. We pay for it for all of our clients and our listeners to take it free. Tell us, what in the world is the RISA? How does it work? What is this brainchild of yours?
Sure. RISA stands for, real quick, Retirement Income Style Awareness. And in Spanish, it means laughter as well. So we thought, we got to use that.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of the level setting. But the RISA came about simply because at Retirement Researcher, that's the membership site that we mentioned, we do a lot of teaching where we sell e-courses, and we have just ongoing subscription for like yearly membership, right? And we do workshops and all of that. And so what was happening is during office hours or during just basic emails, Wade, myself, and Bob French, who's a key member of Retirement Researcher, we would get questions. Hey, I say we, but really Wade. No, we would get questions like, hey, should I do this with my account? Or what do you think about a good Roth conversion strategy? Or is this annuity better than that annuity because of these living benefits? We would get tons of questions, right?
Right.
And a lot of these answers, as you know, the answer is it depends, right? Yeah. And so then we, to answer that properly, we would have to write a thesis of, okay, this is effectively, here's a book. And so that doesn't scale. I mean, point blank, it's hard to do that. And so that's why you lead to the, it depends, right? And we just didn't like that answer, both for ourselves, and we knew that's an unsatisfying answer for a client to hear. But that doesn't make it any less truthful. And so Wade and I looked at each other and said, I think there's something here if we figure out what the it depends on. And could we figure out what it depends, other than, it depends on your situation? What does that mean? It depends on, what does that really mean, right? And so it got us thinking. And frankly, from a business standpoint, we also realized, hey, this is a great lead magnet. This is a great tool that we can use to give to prospects to kind of introduce them into the world of retirement income planning. Because I think there's some knowledge that you start uncovering when you do that. And so it started with the it depends question, like any good scientific inquiry. And that's what it was. It was really, we didn't think, we're going to create a product out of this. We thought, let's see if we can just answer this. right?
Yeah.
Laziness, right? We don't want to write these long emails. Let's see if we can kind of cut to the chase here a little bit. And away we went, and in all good science, I think it just starts with pulling a thread. And if the thread stops immediately, then okay, fine. You move on to something else. But the thread that we started pulling by asking the it depends in a very serious manner has led to this huge spool. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon, additionally. But that's how it started, with just a basic question of what does it depend, so we can help guide the client into a sort of a proper strategy. Again, and I say this because the advisor will say, well, you need a plan, right?
Right.
And then the client will be like, or the prospect will be like, well, I just want to know directionally. I don't want to do a full-fledged plan. And so how could we kind of meet in the middle?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, after this break, we are going to come back and talk about what the RISA does to move them in that direction. But I will tell you, I'll back this up by saying, having been on the radio for 14 years, one of the number one questions I get is, and it's a little bit of an assumption on the part of the person calling in, but let's say they've listened to me for 8 or 10 years. And that happens a lot. And they'll call in and say, Brad, I listen to you all the time. What do I need to do with my money?
Exactly.
And I've never heard from them. I know they're listening to me, but I don't know who they are. So my answer always is, I have no clue. I don't know what to do with your money until you come in and sit down. And thankfully, because of you guys, now I've always had this process that I've used for many years to help them determine how to get to the plan. But now the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, has helped beautifully walk alongside it, because we really talk about the 4 purposes of money with our clients.
Sure.
Safety, growth, income planning, and estate planning. And so where do you fall? And the RISA very beautifully kind of puts them into one of those categories. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about how the RISA works, what this questionnaire is, and how it will help you as someone listening better determine what needs you have for your future and how to come up with a financial plan when working with a qualified financial professional. So just call us at any time, 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. We actually will let anyone who calls in take the RISA free. We pay for that for you. We also will give you a copy of my book, Bulletproof, the Safe and Secure Retirement Income Plan, that will walk hand in hand with the RISA and show you what you need to be doing to develop a safe and secure financial future. Call us anytime at 866-780-7233. There's someone standing by right now to take your call. All right, friends, so those of you who are still with us, or if you're just joining us on radio, we have with us Dr. Alex Murguia, known as Alex to all of us. Alex is talking about the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, this brand new, beautiful tool that we have as financial professionals to help our clients better determine what's appropriate for their future retirement strategy. So, Alex, talk a little bit about what happens when someone takes it. What are they going to find when they jump in here and take the RISA?
Sure. And Mom, it's Dr. Murguia to you.
That's right.
By the way.
Pay that respect, Mom.
Well, what it is ultimately, it's a blend of, in our view, psychology and financial planning. Ultimately, it's an assessment tool. If what's the elevator kind of pitch, if you will. What we hear a lot is, listen, it's like the DISC or the MMPI or something along those lines for financial planning. And it's interesting. We've had comments like this is like a personality tool for your heart, for your wallet, if you will. And so what it does is it takes main factors for retirement income planning. At the end of the day, the it depends question is answered largely by 2 factors. Are you probability based or safety first? Which what you're answering is, do you believe that, are you comfortable putting your assets in something that will probably increase in size over time? And because of that increase, you can take a sustainable withdrawal rate. All right, that's probability based. You're betting on the probability that an asset will increase, so you can take a sustainable withdrawal rate, versus safety first, which is I intellectually can appreciate the whole markets go up over the long term argument, right, but I'm not wired like that. I don't want that. I want the safety of contractual income.
Yeah.
And that's really, you have to ask yourself those 2 questions. Now, something I would, from a personality standpoint, and I mention these sort of exams, think about what you decided to do for a living. Did you want the safety of a steady salary that may include a pension like you would get in some sort of government position?
Right.
Or are you more entrepreneurial in spirit where, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself because I know there will be slings and arrows I know there'll be slings and arrows, but I'm going to do it anyways because that's my comfort state, right? Yeah. One job is not better than the other. You're just deciding how you want to source your professional income. And so in retirement, what's happened is you've expended your your human capital, being that it's hard for you to mine anymore your professional capital for a salary, but you've hopefully accumulated a certain amount of assets. And now you're essentially asking yourself the same question. How do you want to source those assets to fund your retirement, a retirement paycheck? And so do you want probability-based versus safety first? That's one thing. But think about that whole job analogy I used. The other one is optionality versus commitment orientation. Optionality is, I understand all these factors, but I don't want to lock myself in on something.
Right.
Just simply because that's just not the way I'm wired. I like to keep my options open because things may get better in the future. Yes, they may get worse, but you know what? It's one of those items where you just don't like to be tied down. Commitment orientation is, if this solves for my particular income needs for retirement income, I don't want the aggravation of the uncertainty in the future. I'll just lock it down because that allows me to take the surplus and do more discretionary things with it without needing to worry about my daily bread. Yeah. And so that's the commitment orientation. Yes, things may get better in the future, but who knows? They may get worse, and I don't want to worry about it. And there's another piece that you start the automaticity of things. Like, as I get older, it's going to be hard for me to figure out, okay, the market went up and inflation went down, so I have to adjust my distribution because I'm left-handed by 3% instead of 2% because I'm right-handed, that kind of thing. It's sort of circular in nature. And so it avoids that, especially as cognitive decline sets in because you've automated it.
Yeah.
So those are the two main factors that RISA gets to. Now, if you mix those, think about like a consultant hat on and you have a quadrant, probability and safety first will indicate that this person is more of I'm sorry, not probability safety. Probability safety first and optionality commitment oriented. If you're probability and optionality, that's a total return strategy because it just speaks to taking sustainable withdrawal rates and being flexible about that. Now, if you're income protection, which is more, let's set up a layer of perpetual income, a flooring, if you will, that's more safety first and commitment orientation. It just makes sense. And that was an aha moment that Wade and I had. Again, we just wanted to assess people. What does it depend on? We knew that we could profile individuals, but we weren't coming into it thinking that we could actually characterize investment solutions as well. That was a huge sort of, oh, wow, look at this, Wade. I remember I called him up and I said, Wade, look at this, how this is lining up. Can you believe this? And we were like, yeah, my goodness, this matches the whole financial planning, potential retirement strategy. You can map them. And you can map them and tether them to personalities, which was, it's kind of an interesting thing. Time segmentation, think about what you're doing there. You're telling yourself, I want the optionality of being flexible about my safety buckets, but I don't want I don't want to have it for the rest of my life. I want to revisit it every, 3 to 4 years, or I'm just saying that number, say that number. I'm revisiting it every so often, and I will replenish those buckets from investment growth. Yeah. The other piece, that's optionality because you want, you're willing to be flexible because investment growth is variable, right? At least over the long term, but you want the security of knowing, okay, over the next 6 months, over the next year, over the next 2 years, this is where the funds are coming from to fund essential expenses. And then if you look at the other piece of this, the last quadrant, if you will, which is probability based on commitment orientation, what you're telling yourself there is, I want this sort of market exposure because I know I need it, but I want, not that I know I need it, that's the wrong way of saying it, because I just want it, but I want the safety of having a guardrail on the bottom. Right. What you're doing is you're structuring kind of a return a little bit. Yeah. Right? And so what is that? That's the world of variable annuities, the world of RILAs, which is kind of a guardrail vibe to it. And so, I think, go on.
I was going to say the beauty is when someone takes the RISA, when a client, professional uses this with the client and they take the retirement income style awareness, it's going to put them into one of those quadrants, and not just in the quadrant, but exactly where. It's going to put a dot on the map, and it's going to tell them what their preference is for retirement investing and planning, income planning based on that. And then the beauty is, and I want to talk about this after the break, like the next 10 pages of the RISA that we provide to the client, it shows them what type of products and what type of accounts align with their strategy, which I think is a beautiful thing. So,
sure.
Friends, we're going to come back and talk more about this, but on the show today, we have the brainchild. I know there's more than two people involved, but we have Alex Murguia and we have Wade Fowl, who have helped create the retirement income style awareness, which the beauty to that is someone with their PhD in economics and their PhD in psychology. So it's very, very interesting how those two things come together to create something very beautiful for helping determine why it is that I need what I need in retirement. And we've been using the retirement income style awareness with our clients since this became available. And it's interesting. We've had about 82% of all the people that have taken it from listening to the show and from calling in that have fallen into the safety first bucket of planning. Now, there have been some others, but the beauty is that lets us know what direction do we need to go with giving our advice. And as fiduciaries, especially as a certified financial fiduciary, it's very important to know the why behind what advice it is that you give to someone. So if you're listening right now, you don't have a financial plan, you don't know any of the math and science behind what you're doing, and you're like, hey, I need someone to give me a free financial consultation, sit down with me, and let's figure out what direction I need to go. It will start with taking the retirement income style awareness, and we provide that free to all of our listeners. So if you're watching right now, you want to call in, and we will get together with you and give you a copy of the RISA. It will only take you about 20 minutes to take it, and then provide a very beautiful report for you and for us. And that will let us begin the discussion of what direction should we go to come up with the perfect financial plan for you. Our number is 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. Just call in and ask for a free financial consultation. You can also request a free copy of my book, Bulletproof, The Safe and Secure Retirement Income Plan, where we talk about these type of strategies for your financial future. The number again is 866-780-7233, and there's someone standing by right now to take your call. Now, friends, before the break, we were kind of getting into the nuts and the bolts of the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, and we have one of the creators with us on the show. So Alex was talking about, I guess I call it the four quadrants. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely.
That someone would fall
I hope
into.
there's four.
That's right. There better be. Three quadrants. Yeah. So this was interesting. I remember before this all even came out, you and I and Wade were talking together, and you fell into a category that I didn't expect you would fall into, because this is my crazy opinion. You're happy-go-lucky, and the happy side and the fun, free living side. And I thought he's probably going to be a risk taker. He's going to be all in. But what quadrant did you fall into when you took the RISA?
Yeah, I was income protection.
Safety and income protection.
Yeah, I was an income protection guy, and
so was I.
There's one more wrinkle with that.
Okay,
I'm a managing principal in a wealth management firm that's largely, it's I would say 80% of our clients are total return.
Yeah. So you're in a world where swinging for the fences is part of it, where people are okay with the risk, but you fell into the safety and income planning. And I do too. Most of our listeners do, but not all of them do. That's the beauty to this, is helping clients determine where they are, who it is that they are, so that they fit the right products, the right accounts with what it is they're trying to do for their future. Correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Wade was, I want to say, risk wrap. It was different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I probably would have guessed you the
you
other
could make
way.
The cases are different. But I always tease Wade a little bit, because there's natural correlations between being income protection, because there you're, commitment orientation and safety first. They go together. And optionality and total return kind of go together. When you kind of are at the time segmentation and in the risk wrap strategies, there's a little bit of dissonance there. It's not bad or good. It's just one of these sort of competing, ideas if you have in your head, where like Wade would be saying, okay, I want the market exposure, but I want the guardrail. Those things usually don't, it's one of these, it's a behavior strategy at that point. And the industry has created these solutions to kind of accommodate for that, which I find fascinating because it's not like they did it knowing this ahead of time, right? Explicitly. These are all things that Wade and I didn't discover anything per se. It's always been there. All we did was surface it.
Yeah.
You know, and I always find it, you know, hey, Wade, look, you got, I don't know, you have the strategy that's kind of being accommodated for you where, you know, we're in the more natural sort of quadrant.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. That being said, you know, there's all kinds of tools that we as financial professionals have to use to work with our clients to come up with the strategies to hopefully move them in the right direction. I think it's super important that we listen to them and find out what their goals and their purposes are, and then let that help dictate what direction they should go in. But they're relying on us as the financial professional to know how to get them to the end goal. So with all these strategies and softwares and tools out there, I know you created this, so you're going to be biased, and I am too, because I've used it and I've used lots of other stuff.
Doesn't make it any less true.
That is correct. So tell me why you think the retirement income style awareness is something that every client should use. Why should they take this? What difference is it going to make in their financial planning if they walk through and use a tool like this with their financial professional?
All right, there's a couple of things here at play that I'd like to level set, if you don't mind. So it kind of sets it up. I think one of the things is, listen, an underlying assumption. And if you don't believe it, then I don't know what to say. You're not going to subscribe to what I'm saying, right? But to me, there's no one strategy to rule them all. There's no this Lord of the Rings kind of approach where, you know, here we go, or I think you have to disabuse yourself of that. If you're a consumer listening to this, I think you really have to disabuse yourself of what's the best strategy and things like that. There are a few reasons why. The first one is many are actually quite credible. If not, they wouldn't be taught in the educational halls of the United States. The next one is it doesn't matter. You don't optimize on an Excel sheet. You optimize for what you want to do for your life, you know, kind of thing. So if you disabuse yourself from this one way to there's only one manner, and that's not the way of looking at it. The other piece is that there's natural distributions that are very consistent. You'll find a third of the people total return, third of the people are income protection, and then 15% and 15% are time segmentation and risk wrap. That gets me thinking naturally that I think a total return approach is actually something that's being sold, not something that people want as much as you see it. You know, that kind of. So let me say it like that. So why is that? Well, because the first step in the process usually is what's known as a risk tolerance questionnaire, which is, you know, you give a consumer 3 questions. Can you sleep at night? Are you scared of the market? Can you add? Okay, guess what? This is your portfolio, right? I think that deconstructs, and I'm being cute by half the way I'm describing it, guilty, but who cares, right? I think that deconstructs the true essence of what somebody wants to do into something that's almost too simple. That kind of ruins the whole thing. Plus, they were made for accumulation portfolios. There's a quadratic function to these things. And when you're accumulating, that's fine. But when you're in distribution mode, or when you're getting ready for that, the reality is you're faced with different risks. Longevity risk, liquidity risk that you weren't facing when you were working. So you need a different tool to kind of measure that. Now, it's the first step in the process. The RISA should be the first step in the process, because before you determine what role an investment portfolio plays, right, you need to determine what the strategy is. And by that, I mean how much goes into an investment portfolio, how much goes into some sort of contractual income play, how much goes into perhaps a liquidity buffer, etc. You need to determine all of that before you get to I'm a 60-40 portfolio because my risk score is, I don't know, 55. I'm making it, you know, that kind of. To me, that's, you know, that's a convention that's not really valid, you know, if you just go like that. And so you need to first determine the strategy. I mean, there's a reason the RISA is the first chapter in Wade's book, because it sets it level sets the playing ground. Now, the other thing is the RISA is not, hey, you're income protection, so let's find you the best this and that's it. You still need to run the numbers. You still need to overlook things. But right now, financial solutions are hidden in plain sight from everyone, and it's hard to research them all. It really is, especially for consumers. It's difficult enough for advisors. For consumers, it becomes overwhelming, right? And so I think that instead of just going with the last thing you heard or the last book you read thinking, oh, this makes sense to me, I think it's good for the consumer to really realize what is it that makes me think about how I want to fund my retirement income? And let me start from there.
Yeah.
You overlay money around that, but let me start from there. And that makes the whole process a lot better. Because I do think consumers don't realize that there are a lot of options to them. And if you find the right one that fits for you with the assumption that there are no best strategies, it's the one that's the best for you, I think it empowers them, frankly, in a way that they haven't been before.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all that you shared there. It's powerful stuff. Friends, if you're listening right now, you know from listening to me for 14 years, we are passionate about providing income strategies and solutions for you that are going to last the rest of your life. And most of you that listen to this show, you're risk adverse. You don't want risk. When you call in, you're saying, hey, I want something that's safe. We get that. But there are a lot of people that call in that are in their 30s and their 40s, and they're in a totally different stage of life. They're not 55 or 65 about to enter into retirement, and their plan requires something different. That's why Hunter and I are both retirement income certified professionals through the American College of Financial Services. We've worked very closely with Dr. Wade Fowle, and now working with Alex. We use the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, as part of our uncovering process to find out where someone is and what it is they need and want for the future. If you would like to have access to these tools, it's very simple. All you have to do is give us a call, 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. We will set up the way for you to take the RISA free of charge. It will provide and generate the report for us, and then we will very happily go over that with you free of charge. We will not charge to meet with you to discuss your future financial plan and to come up with the best thing for your specific situation. So call us anytime at 866-780-7233. Schedule a free financial consultation. We will put you in front of the tools that will help you secure the future that you want for your family. 866-780-7233, and stay with us. We're going to come back for one more session with Alex. There is someone always standing by to take your call. Alex, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. Now, I know we talked a little bit about Wade. His ears are probably burning today down there in Dallas, if that's where he is. He's probably on the road. But, he's written 3 books that we love. It's Safety First Retirement Planning, An Integrated Approach for a Worry-Free Retirement. That certainly falls in line with a lot of things that we talk about and teach on this program. But then the Retirement Planning Guidebook, Navigating the Important Decisions for Retirement Success. This is just the Retirement Researcher's Guide series that you guys use. It's been so great for teaching clients and helping them learn about where they are in their process of retirement income planning, what steps they need to take for the future. But as we close, kind of, if you will, talk a little bit about how the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, a survey and questionnaire for clients, kind of piggybacks on all the stuff that Wade's been writing about for years, how those two things kind of merge together, if you were to help clients.
No, that's a great question. And a little plug for Wade, his new book, the new edition of the guidebook is
just came
released.
out.
So, hey, check it out.
That's right. And also his mortgage book, third edition, just came out.
Yeah. Well, actually, and a little inside baseball, the idea is that the mortgage book and the guidebook will be the ones going. He'll probably sunset. I say this, the other ones, because he's going to bake it into the retirement income guidebook.
Great.
I mean, Wade, look, he's a good friend of mine, right? But I think that guidebook will become the de facto resource book for all things retirement income planning. I mean, it kind of already is, but it will be in this, in the same manner that Burton Markel's A Random Walk Down Wall Street has become this sort of like, it's in the lexicon of what book do you got to get for such and such. I think Wade's book is
absolutely
is the one like that. That being said, answering the question, how does it piggyback and the like? Well, again, we started this whole inquiry, and at that time, Wade's book wasn't necessarily published, but we kind of knew where we were going with this, right? We wanted to answer that question. It depends, right? And so what we did is we scoured the literature, Wade and myself, on all things retirement income planning. Like, we brought in Moshe Malevsky, all the work from Dave Blanchett, all the work from Michael Finke, all that kind of stuff. We just loaded up on papers and just, went through them. How do you dig a big hole? You dig. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we just started reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. And obviously all of Wade's writings was a key influence on that. Moshe Malevsky as well. I mean, I can't stress enough. And we started pulling out concepts, from his writings. Because even though I talked about probability, safety first, optionality, commitment oriented, there were other factors that play a major role. They're more secondary in nature because probability, safety first, and optionality, commitment orientation, it's not like they're the most important factors. That's kind of a weird way of thinking about it. But they're the two factors that hang the best together, if you will. They kind of do certain things. They're important individually, but together they're actually the most distinct factors, which is very important when you're putting an assessment tool together, and they hang extremely well together. And there's statistical process to figure that out, which I'll save you guys the boredom from. But call me if you want to find. No, I'm kidding. There were other factors that we discovered, like accumulation distribution factor. Accumulation is what mindset are you in? And as an advisor, you've seen this where you've seen somebody that's 75 years old, right? And even though they're retired and they should be in this distribution mindset, it doesn't matter. They still are thinking about growing, that kind of thing. It's almost like, hey, we're creatures of habit, right? And it's a learned behavior that just was never shaken, if you will. And so, are you in accumulation mode or are you in distribution mode? Not necessarily economically, psychologically. Right? I think that's an important factor. And sometimes I'm sure some of your job is you're really trying to help a client realize, I get that you're in accumulation mode, but let's look at the reality of your situation and what risks you can take or not take, that kind of thing. Then there's another factor that we took from his book and all these writings, which is the idea of technical and true liquidity. That's an interesting concept. Technical liquidity is something along the lines of, hey, I have a $2 million portfolio, and I'm taking out 4% a year, so I'm taking out $80,000 a year, and whatever that, coupled with Social Security, I'm in good shape. But then this person calls you 6 months later and says, hey, I need to take out $100,000 because I'm remodeling my house. Yeah. Right? And then it's liquid in the sense that you can put in a sell order and the money's wired to your bank account the next day. But really it's not, because that's earmarked for your distribution, right? And so but you may be comfortable with that, right? True liquidity is, I want things earmarked specifically for such and such. Think about time segmentation. Bucketing strategies where, no, I want this right there, or I want something for emergencies, not necessarily for income. So then I don't have to tap into the asset base that's set up for distribution. That's this true liquidity sense. And if there's certain things that happen when you think like that, financial planning, that has further implications. Perpetuity time-based is another kind of factor. Perpetuity, income floor versus, no, I want it in segments. Front-loading, back-loading. This is kind of the consumption smoothing concept, which it's hard to understand when it's explained to me. I'm like, what? Yeah. Say it again? Front-loading and back-loading is effectively, you should technically spend relative to the probabilities you're going to be alive. So by default, you spend earlier when you're 60 than you should spend in your 90s because the probability that you're going to be alive is less, right? And so there's a front-loading component to that. The reality is that I get the logic, but guess what? I will not be comfortable buying the jumbo-sized Coca-Cola at Disney World because if I get older, I may not have enough. You won't enjoy it. You know how there's some clients that you have that just, yes, they can spend it, but it's kind of like tough for them to enjoy it. They feel like they're profligate. And so they don't do it. And part of that is because they're worried about later on, they may not have enough. They don't want to be this sort of legacy burden, if you will. And so that's backloading. And now these things, it's a preference, right? There are people that, to the degree that you're not, you don't have a $10 million account and you're living in your basement just drinking soup cans for dinner, that kind of thing. You can make the case, hey, look, that's maladaptive, right? But it's not right or wrong if somebody doesn't feel comfortable spending it early because the anxiety that brings in doesn't allow them to enjoy it. And so there's these other factors that, Wade's book and all these things just bring to light that the RISA used to kind of begin this scientific inquiry. Now, Wade's book also has, it's a beautiful book in the sense that the RISA is the setup of, look, these are the strategies, and underlying these strategies, these are the solutions that you can implement.
Right.
And then, chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever on Wade's book talks about those strategies in greater detail. So you can, begin to drill down. And so it works with the RISA works with Wade's book in the sense that I don't think a lot of people read Wade's, professionals, yes, but consumers, I think it's used more as a resource book where you don't go from page 1 to page whatever at the end and, okay, I'm done. I think you can read the first few chapters to get a level set, and then you pick and choose based on your RISA preferences, if you will, what areas, necessitate a further drill down.
Right. Good. Very good. Well, I know that the majority of people listening, because it's Safe Money Radio and they've been listening for a long time, know that the plan for a lot of people is, hey, once I reach a certain age in life, I'm done with the risk. I may be comfortable with some, but I want to know that my base living expenses are taken care of. Outside of that, if I know that my base living expenses are taken care of and I've got mailbox money coming in to pay for the mortgage or the rent, movie night, whatever, then I'm okay with some risk. But that's got to be taken care of first. Not everyone falls into that boat, though. There are people that they're in a different stage of life and they're comfortable with more risk. But the key to me is the beauty of something like this, where you have someone with their brain in the psychology world, which is Alex, and their brain in the economic world, which not that that's the only thing, but those two PhD brains come together and create something that says this is the psychology behind the economics of why you need to do what you're doing. And so, I don't know, I would say to anyone listening right now or watching, and I know that people watch all across the country, is that if you walk into a financial advisor's office because you were referred to them or because that's who your dad or granddad used, and you just plopped down money and said, here, put this somewhere, that is not necessarily the best way to come up with a plan for your future. If they never asked you a question about what your goals and purposes are, they never gave you anything like the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness, to help formulate the proper plan, then you're probably just shooting into the air. And I think there's a better way. So that's why we want to offer the opportunity to take the Retirement Income Style Awareness to every single one of our listeners, anyone that's watching the podcast. If you would like to take the Retirement Income Style Awareness, just reach out to us. Our number is 866-780-7233. We are very passionate about matching the right plan to your goals, purposes, and desires for your future. We're very thankful for Alex and for Wade, for the people that help us come up with the right tools to put in front of our clients to get to that bottom line. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you want more information, just call us 866-780-7233. That's 866-780-SAFE, and there's always someone standing by to take your call. Alex, thank you so much. We're going to have you on again. Everyone, have a great day.
All right, now.